Mike Moore Media.
I'm talking to Rodney Cates, Director of Rockingham County Emergency Services, our monthly podcast. Rodney, always good to have you in the program. Hope you're doing well.
Yes, we're Mike. You're doing great. Good to see you this morning.
Good to always have some time to talk with you. And October is, of course, National Fire Prevention Month, so the focus is on that to start with today, I'm sure.
It is, and we want to always be certainly safe and conscious about fire safety, and our fire marshals group does a great job at that. And changing those batteries and those fire alarms, the CO2 detectors, and making sure that we're as safe as we can be. And in fact, this weekend, Mike, it's going to go down in the 40s, so the heat's going to come on probably for the first time for a lot of people, and the dust collects on those burners and different elements that are going to heat up, so we get that burning smell and possibly activating those smoke alarms and things of that nature. So certainly we need to be mindful of that this weekend as we start heat, and make sure that chimneys are clean and heaters are working properly so that we don't create any fire hazards for our families and create any dangers for them as this cooler weather begins to approach upon us.
Sure, yeah. Just replaced a couple of things at a family member's home. Just bringing things a little current there. Some things that were outdated. Some smoke detectors, things like that. And that's important that we make sure, as you just mentioned, that's done on a regular basis for sure. That
is exactly right. Typically we do it when time changes. But any time that we feel that those batteries need to be changed, or we just need to push those test buttons on those devices and listen to them go off and make sure that they're operational, because they are most certainly life-saving devices. And, even Jeremy Shelton, our assistant fire marshal, was recognized through the American Heart Association as a Salute to Heroes a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And part of that recognition was his procurement of smoke alarms for the deaf and hard of hearing. We actually have those and can get those. So certainly some great efforts that ensure the safety of everyone during this time of year.
Yeah. Let's talk about how we as a family can make sure that we have things in place in our home. Give us a kind of a run through what we should do to be prepared in case there is a fire.
The number one thing is plan that evacuation route. I was just on ncready.gov, and we've talked about that on many of these podcasts, but I was just on there this morning looking at that, at some updated information they have, and the number one thing it talks about is prepare for disasters. And certainly a fire in our home is a disaster for our family and perhaps our neighbors or anybody else in our community. So the number one thing is to plan that evacuation route. Make sure that everyone in our family knows how to get out safely. And where do we rendezvous at once we're outside of the house? Where do we all come back together as a collective family so that we can all count for each other and make sure that we are safe? Property can be replaced, and certainly we don't want to lose property, but lives cannot. So we want to make sure that we have all the members of our family and we're all safe, and we can work on mitigating the fire after that point, but we just want to make sure that evacuation route is foremost in everybody's mind, so that if that fire alarm goes off, or if we smell smoke, or if we see flames, we know without any hesitation exactly what is our route to get out of that burning structure.
Yeah. I think about people that live on second or third floor in a situation, and to make sure that they have a way out too.
That's true, and there's devices made. There's rope ladders that people can put at windows, and you potentially throw a window open, hook that rope ladder right to that window, and let it drop down the side of the house and evacuate that way. Several different mechanisms to get out, and those need to be practiced. We don't need to wait until we have that panicky moment when we really have a life-threatening event. If we practice those events, I make a lot of sports analogies, but we practice. My children play high school football, so they practice all week for that game on Friday night. And certainly a fire in a house is not a game, but that's when you want to put all of your practice, you want to have all your practice done prior to the real event. So that real event for the football team is their game on Friday night. So they practice all week to prepare for that in every element that they can, all the special teams, how they come on the field, how they get off the field, everything. So this disaster preparation is exactly the same. When it's a pretty Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon, and all of our family is at home, and we say, okay, if our house catches on fire, how do we get out? And we practice it under those non-stressful events. Mm-hmm. That's what allows us to be able to perform when the stressful event really occurs.
Sure, that's exactly right. Okay. Well, thank you for those tips. We have an important event taking place today nationwide. That's a test of the Federal Emergency Alert System. Tell us a little bit about that, Rodney, why that's so important.
Well, that'll go off around 2:20 this afternoon. And should there ever be any type of national event, and certainly we hope it never happens, but again, it's all about preparation. Just like we were talking about our fire escape preparation, this is a federal preparation that we're all going through today, again, during a non-stressful time when we can all hear these alerts and make sure that we're getting alerts. It's FEMA's way of letting us know that we can all be notified. These notifications will go off on cellular telephones, wired telephones, television, radio, any type of avenue that we can receive information on. An alert will go today. It is only a test, and certainly they've done a good job at putting information out to indicate that it's only a test. So again, today is like that practice like we just talked about. Mm-hmm. Today's the practice that hopefully never leads up to the real event, but again, it prepares us for a real event or a real disaster should we ever have one.
Yeah. Okay, so that's going to be, as you said, around 2:20 today, and understand cell towers will be broadcasting that test for 30 minutes, but each phone should only receive it once. And you mentioned FEMA, and that's a good source to get more information, FEMA.gov, FEMA.gov. Yeah. Also, I wanted to mention something, Rodney. I know we've talked about this, and I've done a number of programs with fire chiefs. I'm hoping maybe to do every chief in the county. Went to the recent meeting of the fire chiefs group. I was impressed with all of the people that were there. They had several speakers about some things that statewide that they're working on. But we had a fire this past weekend, and at a business, and I got this from the fire chief himself, only 2 firemen responded, 3 counting the chief. And that's why I guess we wonder why so many departments respond, but they have to have so many departments, I guess, to just get enough people to work the fire, don't they?
Well, we've talked many times and for several years about volunteers declining. Mm-hmm. All of these departments need people, any volunteer agency, whether it's the fire department, the rescue squads, all of these people need volunteers. And certainly we do, in order to assist fire departments in getting enough people there from the 911 standpoint, we build response plans that have multiple agencies responding, one for extra apparatus, but again for extra manpower. So mm-hmm. if one station only has 3 or 4 volunteers that can show up and they get there and it's a working fire and they need a lot of people, then those additional stations that are automatically dispatched through these response plans, it does certainly give them extra manpower. But the underlying message there certainly is if anybody is interested in volunteering for these agencies, we strongly encourage them to they can contact our office and we can put them in touch with the proper department that their district is within their district that they could volunteer with. We can let them know what the requirements are statewide to maintain a fire certification or to obtain a fire certification. So volunteers across the board nationwide. It's not just a Rockingham County problem. It's nationwide. We need volunteers in all avenues of mm-hmm. public safety.
Yeah, a lot of those guys are getting older and phasing out, retiring, and we just need those younger people too, for sure. I was interested right before we talked. I was on your Facebook page, Rockingham County Emergency Services. I see a post there from someone who's recently retired after 30 years and talking about how rewarding the job is.
And it is, again, in all avenues, that whether you're on the fire side, emergency services encompasses so many different things. But Mark Harris just retired from us on the EMS side, and we talked about in his retirement announcement, he has saved countless lives. He has brought countless lives into the world through childbirth. EMS certainly plays a huge role. We run a ton of childbirth calls, and certainly they bring life into the world. They sustain life that's already in the world, and people that it's time for them to pass on. They may be able to sustain life long enough for loved ones to come in and pay their final respects and see their loved ones, before they actually pass on. So to be able to do that, to sustain a life or to save a life or to bring a life into the world, as we've talked before, you don't put a monetary value on that. That touches you inside, and it touches those families inside. So you can do that from the professional standpoint. You can do that from the volunteer standpoint. So that's why these roles are so important.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate your good team there. Anything else we need to mention before we wrap it up?
Well, speaking of the fire service and the fire prevention month going on, our fire marshal's office kicked off the toy drive for the North Carolina Burn Children's Unit. That began actually October 1st. There are collection boxes all over the county at the rescue squad buildings, the county government, emergency services building, the DA's office, several different other places throughout the county. So if anybody wants to donate new toys, already still in the original wrapper or packaging from the manufacturer, these toys will be packaged up and sent to the North Carolina Burn Children's Unit in Chapel Hill. I've actually assisted in doing this and with our fire marshals, and again, the look on these people's faces when you roll in with these toys, these people, families and children that may be in these burn units. Perhaps families can't go out to shop for their children because they're there by their bedside helping take care of them and monitor their status. So it takes a burden off families, and it puts a smile on children's faces. So certainly a great cause that runs from now, or began October 1st, runs through November the 15th. So if anybody would like to donate to that, our fire marshal's office would certainly be appreciative, and the families that would receive these toys are appreciative as well.
Oh, I'm so glad you mentioned that. I haven't seen any information on that this time around. I'm aware of it because you do it every year, so I'm glad you mentioned it. And I think I sent you some information about our new weekly Wednesday morning call-in show. That would be, maybe we can hook up with somebody to call in on that a couple of times between now and mid-November and remind people about that and the toy drive that's going on now. So thank you for that information. Okay. And again, congratulations to Jeremy Shelton getting that Salute to Heroes award. I know we're all proud of him, too.
Yes, certainly.
Okay. Thank you, Rodney. I'll talk to you next month.
All right, Mike. Take care.
You too, sir. Bye. All right, that's Rodney Cates. He is Director of Rockingham County Emergency Services. Office is there in Wentworth. You can go to their Facebook page, as I just mentioned, Rockingham County Emergency Services. And he just mentioned a little bit ago, too, that readync.gov, website readync.gov. Please go to that on a regular basis to be prepared for all kinds of things. That's a great resource. And thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting our emergency services, our fire departments countywide.